Good morning, dear participants. We'll be starting in a short while.
प्रथमेश पाटील सर येणार आहेत.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to all.
So we would request all the participants to please stay on mute. We'll be starting in by 10:05. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Is there anyone from the organizing side? Am I audible?
Yes.
Huh.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. You are
Can-
audible.
It's already 10 o'clock. Can we start the session?
Yeah. So we'll be starting. We can start the session.
Yeah. I can display. Can I display the slide?
A very good morning to one and all present here. Before we start the session, I would request everyone to kindly keep themselves on mute. You can post your questions in the chat window from where our team will select the questions. Considering the time constraint, we will try to answer few questions. On behalf of RGCMS, I, Ashmi Narvate, welcome you all to this faculty development program on Art of Writing research paper. Rajiv Gandhi College of Management Studies is a NAAC A-grade accredited institute situated in Ghansoli, Navi Mumbai. The RGCMS exists under the Jinister Trust, that is Jawaharlal Nehru Institute of Education, Science and Technology Research Trust, whose founder is President Honorable Shri Vittal Rao Jadhav ji, and he has played a pivotal role in establishment of various educational trusts across Maharashtra, namely MGM Institute, MIT Pune, and Marathwada Mitra Mandal Pune. Under his leadership, Ginster Trust has established more than 30 educational institutes all over Maharashtra in various fields like management, engineering, agriculture, biotechnology, and research. Particularly at our Ghansoli campus, Jinister Trust successfully runs two of its brainchild, that is Srimati Indira Gandhi College of Engineering, which was established in 1993, and Rajiv Gandhi College of Management Studies, which was established in 2009. Under the leadership of our Honorable Chairman Sir and our Honorable Managing Trustee Member, Mrs. Ashwini Raghav. Today we have with us Dr. Arvind Dhon, sir, Associate Professor at St. Xavier's College, Autonomous Mumbai. Dr. Dhon has a career spanning over 36 years, which includes 26 years of teaching experience at degree college and 10 years of corporate experience, holding a middle-level management position in reputed Indian companies. He has been awarded with 41 degrees and certification in diverse fields of learning. Dr. Doan also holds research experience of 25 years and established 158 research papers along with the 40 books. He is recognized research guide, evaluator, and external referee for a doctoral dissertation and thesis, and has evaluated 8 PhD theses as an external examiner cum referee. He is an editor and peer reviewer since the past 15 years for national and international research journals. Apart from his vast academic qualification and experience, Dr. Doon is also member of Autonomous Board of Studies at Wilson College, Tibai College, Narsimhanji College, and KES Shroff College, Pillai College, Birla College, etc. Sir, I may request you to kindly take over the session.
Thank you so much. Is the screen display visible? Very good morning.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Very good morning to all the learned members over here. I express my heartfelt thanks to Director Dr. Dinesh for giving me an opportunity to interact with the participants on this interesting topic of research paper writing. Maybe you have a couple of queries in your mind before the beginning of the session, as the compare indicated that questions would be selected. I would be happy to answer all your questions and whatever queries you are having in your mind pertaining to this topic. So let us proceed in order to understand what is the art of writing research papers, and nowadays these research papers, when it is written and subsequently being published, then it gets added on the biodata of the author of the research paper. So this faculty development program is mainly organized, maybe a couple of you might have written some research papers in the past, or maybe intending to write some research papers. During the course of your next research paper, definitely this session will give you some new insights to speak on the art of writing research paper. There are 7 days faculty development program, entire day, 6 hours, 7 hours session. The entire thing is clubbed in a capsule form, so as to give you a brief insights pertaining to the art of writing research paper. On this very area of research paper writing, I have taken maybe more than 110, 120 sessions till now over a period of time cumulatively. So definitely, whatever queries you are having, I will try my level best to respond to your satisfaction relating to the queries which you are having relating with research paper writing and all. So keep your queries as indicated in the chat box as well as with you. And at the end of the session, I will halt in the last 15-20 minutes. It's not the question of completing the entire thing, but to give you insights, glimpses in this area and respond to your queries, because you have remote precious time to attend this faculty development program, and whatever queries you are having that need to be responded, it's my duty. The takeaway at the end of today's session will be definitely a good quality research paper which will be there. Expertise can be gained in this area by writing n number of research paper, and at each point of time the comparison has to be your own past research paper and the upcoming research paper, so that your upcoming research paper would be a quality research paper. If we have to speak about research, it's a broad continuous activity which may culminate in the form of a project report, in the form of a dissertation, in the form of a thesis, and so on. On the other hand, we have a research paper, which is a bird's eye view, a summarized version of this entire research work. So generally, those of you who have visited to the research center libraries, university libraries, and have at least glanced through a thesis around 300 pages. So at times it is more than that also a thesis would run into. So can the entire 300 pages be encapsulated within 5 to 6 pages of a research paper? The answer is yes, right at the beginning. Okay, it's not a question whether yes or no or partly yes, partly no. The answer is definitely yes for it. So how to compress it is the art of editing. Editing you come across in journalism, wherein the news editors, article editors would have voluminous amount of data, but they try to pick it up and the essence of that is put over there so as to convey the message. Exactly, a research paper can be pulled out from a project report which runs around 100 pages. Project report generally comes into picture in case of a master's degree, be it MA, be it MSc, be it MCom, be it MBA, and so on. A dissertation comes out at an MPhil level, which runs around 200 pages. A thesis comes out at the end of a PhD research work, which runs around 300 pages, plus minus, depending on the subjects and so on. So be it a project report, be it a dissertation, be it a thesis, a research paper can be pulled out of that entire thing. So research paper is basically a summarized version of the entire research work which is undertaken by a researcher. Now this research paper can be authored by a single author, one single person. It can be authored by multiple authors in that case. Depends on the requirement of the expertise of the person and the confidence of the author of the research paper. Other requirements are also there during the course of PhD work, during the tenure of PhD work. The research scholar who has enrolled for the PhD program need to write the research paper jointly with the assigned PhD guide. So the mandatory requirements are also there as per the university requirement which need to be met. So case to case, that will depend on in case of a research paper. It's basically a project for which if the researcher wants to join hands, collaborate with another researcher in a field, maybe an interdisciplinary work, maybe depending on the time factor, one can collaborate and take it up, or else a researcher can write independently a research paper. There's no mandatory requirement that it need to be jointly only. As understood, a research paper is a summarized version of the entire research work which is undertaken by a researcher. A research paper is distinct from a research article. No doubt at times we come across people using these terms, lay people, as synonymous term. But technically, if we reflect on the terminologies, what we try to get, a research paper, be it in the form of a conference, seminar, proceedings, prepared for it, or it is published in a research journal. So those are research papers. On the other hand, a research article comes out in a media, it's a newspaper. A newspaper article is there, authored by, can be anyone, can do a research and contribute. to a newspaper. Now that becomes a research article. It's like for a minute you hide the word research. So in a newspaper, what are there? Articles are there. We know the wordings matter over there, the limitation of the wordings matter over there because of the space constraint and all. So very brief one. So research article is a very brief one, which comes out in a newspaper and all. Whereas a research paper, if we look into in a conference, seminar, proceeding, research journals, a research paper is published. Our today's work is focusing on how to write a research paper. So one has to go through online sources. Also, there are e-journals available. On the other hand, in the library, University Library Research Center, there are journals, research journals, where the research papers are published of other authors. So one goes through it. What is the entire layout, systematic, not just one of them, because one research paper may not at times include a particular element, but when one goes through 7 to 10, we'll get a rough idea of what it is. Accordingly, one can go ahead with a template preparation. Just like, for instance, a biodata is there. And in case of a biodata, the initial template form, the title of it, name, dash, date of birth, dash, contact details, dash, email ID, dash, mobile number, dash. So the fill in the blank is filled by each person. Likewise, in case of a research paper, a template can be prepared which lays down the structure. And then the researcher, we use the word researcher in the world of research, basically one who is the author of a research paper, will go on gathering the information and writing that information. And in the present day, soft copies are required even for the journal to be published. So when I mean writing, I mean typing the information in the soft copy form. Editing of it in case of grammar, re-editing of it, and again, it's a continuous process until submission, until the deadline, until the submission. So one cannot say one research paper, one will stretch, go on and on, but one has to fix your own deadline, your own timing. Maybe this is the mid of March, so you decide upon by the end of March, or maybe mid of April, exactly 18th of April 2023, you will complete writing a research paper, not start, complete, and send it across to a journal for publication purpose. So if that target you fix at the beginning of the session, then that would be worth for the organizers to organize the session on research paper writing. A research paper is not just a comprehension or a wish list. Many a time it so happens that the researcher gets emotionally involved, personally involved in the research paper writing. Basically, the word research itself indicates, yes, your involvement is there at the stage of selection of the research topic. A topic of contemporary nature, a topic which arises curiosity in your mind. But subsequently, it will be a neutral reporting based on the figures and facts and analysis of the data, not just one's own wish list like a comprehension. Beginners who intend to write research paper, they land up, even during the time of the conference and presentation, teaching the participants over there. Say, for instance, e-banking. I'm just taking an instance, and then on e-banking, they keep on explaining e-banking, when it started, what is the history, what is the advantages of it, what are the features of it, what are the disadvantages of that. Stop. This is not required. The participants who are attending a conference or seminar are already postgraduates, are already qualified. And if it is academicians or an gathering which involves academician plus industrialist, or at times only industrialist, people working in the industry, they know all this. that need not be taught to them. 11th standard student, if picked up and told, explain about e-banking, can explain. So what is to be done will come the question. It has to be purely research based on data, based on data, based on data. Data need to be gathered. And without data gathering, it's not an essay writing or a composition. So first thing, make the mind clear of it. Yes, somewhere the introduction will come, but a couple of lines are there where you are explaining. But rest everything in a research paper, the word research itself means gathering the data, analyzing the data, reporting what the data is speaking, and concluding. That's it. Without data, it is a paper presentation and not a research paper presentation. So difference between that. Many a time during the time of the seminar and conference, the chairpersons of the paper presentation session draw such a remark on the presenter. Presenters are too ambitious. They make colorful PowerPoint presentation and present, and at the end of that, there is no data. And the chairperson says, where is the data? I presented advantages, disadvantages that the entire world knows. What is the advantage, disadvantage, feature, meaning, definition? That is not required. That is totally out. Only 2-3 lines and the introduction can be there in the research paper. Rest everything is a scientific reporting and it is a scientific writing. Here the word scientific means a systematized procedure of reporting and writing the information in a research paper, and if that is not there, it is merely a paper and that will not fetch anything. Many a time during conference seminar, there is best paper presenter award, best research paper award, best research paper presenter award, and all. So in these, if it is fitting in the form of the research paper, then only it is considered for next stage evaluation. If it is only conceptual, one is explaining, which the whole world knows, then at that time there is no research. A conceptual can also be original when one thinks of it first time. Innovators think about it, the concept, but then the concepts which are there presented are by the original theorist who bring out those concepts, not something which is already existing and the whole world knows about it and one tries to put forward that thing and all. So it's a scientific writing, and then if it is quality work, it will be taken for consideration for publication purpose. So analysis of the data in a research paper is a must. Let the data be primary sources or let the data be sourced from secondary sources, but it need to be data over there, not merely an essay writing or a wish list. At this point, one has to be very clear right at the beginning. Otherwise, one is ambitious. This conference is there. In one night, one will write. It's not possible to gather the information from reasonable number of respondents over there. In the entire research process, every word used in a research paper, every word, there has to be a reason why. Justification. And until the justification is not there, then a researcher cannot say the research paper is completed. A research paper say a researcher indicates in a research paper the sampling technique was purposive sampling. The sample size was 185 respondents. Why? Why was purposive sampling utilized when n number of other sampling technique was utilized? Second, why was 185 respondents utilized? Why not 100? Why not 182? Why not 189? Why not 1 lakh? So there has to be an answer for it. It cannot be that the researcher felt so. There has to be a scientific response, and one has to turn the pages of research methodology, books, look at the tools which are available, tools, techniques, and follow the scientific procedure. And when asked for such questions, the researcher should have logical answer from a research perspective. So why this? Why this topic? Why this sample size? Why this sampling technique? Why this region selected, the geographical area for the conduct of the research and all. Now, every journal, be it online, be it the print version of the journal, they do have in their previous publication or on their web pages or in the form of a leaflet or pamphlet, a guideline which indicates what need to be followed in a research paper. Now, one has to adhere to those norms. At times, this is just a sample indication in front of you, which indicates the range of the words total. Total words includes right from the title till the references, everything over there. Many a time people say title is excluded, author's name is excluded, references are excluded. No, everything over there. One has to look at the maximum words over there and not to cross it. At times, the research papers are returned back by the reviewer indicating that cut down the number of words and stick to the number of words as per our guidelines. And one has to then sit once again, do the editing. So look at both the minimum and maximum words which are there. Minimum, yes, authors are able to comply with. But in case of maximum, one has to edit the content. As a member of editorial board of several journals in the past 15 to 18 years, as well as being also an executive editor of the research journal, myself, I do come across several research paper which need to be returned back and authors need to be told that you cut down this and you say. So the general structure is which we will be seeing shortly one by one. Title of the article, name, designation, institution, affiliation, email ID of the authors over there. At times only the name is there and subsequent information is put as the footnote on the first page. Designation, institution, affiliation, email ID and so on. Journal to journal it would vary, but the information need to be provided. The necessary placement of it in a uniform pattern, the editorial board of the journal would take care of it. But these things are a must. Keywords, at least 4 to 5. Abstract, around 200 words over there. Abstract is placed at the below the title, right at the beginning, but abstract is written in the end. Means written in the end, means written in the last, after the entire research paper is ready, which covers in 4 to 5 sentences. That's it. The entire research paper over there. As I indicated, a project, dissertation or a thesis is brought down to 6 to 7 pages research paper. But 6 to 7 pages research paper is brought down to 4 sentences in an abstract, which will even speak about the results, what is being obtained and what are the inferences, everything. Then the entire research article, right from the introduction, the rationale, the research methodology which is being adopted, sample size, sampling technique which is adopted, data analysis statistical tool which is adopted, descriptive statistics, inferential statistics, testing of the hypothesis, verification of the objective, findings, conclusion, suggestions. In the research paper, in appropriate places, wherever there are charts, graph, tables, it will have a header, it will have a footer. The header will be the number, that is table number, chart number, graph number, and so on. So 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 within the research paper. And that same pictorial representation will have a footer which will indicate the source. If the data is sourced from some secondary sources such as RBI database or stock exchange database, BSc, NSC and all, reference would be made to it, any government department and so on, or United Nations body and all. And in case of a primary data empirical research which a researcher has undertaken, so primary data analysis, the year in which the data gathering analysis is done, say 2023. Or say academic year is 22-23, data gathered in November and subsequently in January analyzed, so 22-23. And then in the last would go references, which has been a certain sources which has been referred by the researcher, which includes the sources for review of literature. So standard template of this is prepared, and the researcher tries to go ahead. These instructions, guidelines, to a certain extent varies from journal to journal, research journal, I mean, and at times research journal may not give any guideline, may just say inviting research paper, or even a conference seminar would merely indicate inviting research paper for the upcoming conference seminar. That's it. So at that time, a researcher can look at the guidelines indicated over here. All this presentation after today's session will be emailed to the organizer, and the organizers would be then, with the consent of their chief, circulating to all the participants. So you will have it handy at any point of time for your future reference purpose. So these instructions at times are indicated in the conference brochure on the web pages of the research journal, or at times there is nothing, just invitation for submitting the research paper. So one looks at the information, how it is presented. Not this session, yes, is going on in English. That doesn't mean only there are English research journal. There are research journals of high repute standards, even in regional languages, which are there. The structure goes in the same format. The language would vary. In case of no instruction and some clarity is required on certain point, other than this, one at any point of time can write an email to the journal, editor of the journal, and for any specific query, and they would be glad to respond to it. General instructions are there wherein it indicates that A4 size paper need to be utilized with a standard margin on all the four sides of the page in case of page margin setting. At times it would indicate 1.5 line, 1.5 line spacing, at time double line spacing, as indicated in the instruction one adheres to it. Font size 12 Times New Roman. No need to use any artistic font and so on, and unnecessary color over here. Graphs are there where color is required. The pie charts are there, bar diagram is there, line graph is there, technical analysis related information are there. Yes, they are in color as it is original, but unnecessary colors need not be utilized. Photographs are there of a particular region or a specific aspect which is touched upon in the research paper. Yes, it would be in its original color. Otherwise, making unnecessary color of the font and all serves no purpose over there. Work also need to be taken into consideration in case of a research work, that is unpublished research work. Already if it is sent to another journal, then wait, get the response from them, and then in case the earlier journal is not accepting it for publication purpose, then you withdraw it, sending an email that I withdraw my earlier research paper, and then you submit it to the next journal. The same research paper being published twice will have no credit for the author, because it is not merely the count of the research paper, the content of that would also be seen over there. Extension of the same concept can do over there in a different way, but it is not the same entire content being published. Plagiarism softwares are being utilized. So once a research paper is submitted, it is a run through. Every small journal also is having a plagiarism software. It is the data is run through a plagiarism software, and they have a standard range. If the plagiarism is above 15%, then the research paper would be rejected, and so on. So straight away, those research papers are being rejected. So one need to look into. I would request everyone to mute yourself and not in between on and off the mic. So plagiarism, one need to adhere to the norms and not to use as it is others' data over there. If it is an original work, the question of plagiarism will not arise there at all. During the entire course of the research paper writing task, a researcher keeps with oneself a small research diary where some thoughts spontaneously which may arise, not only when the researcher is sitting in front of a computer to write a research paper, but at times while traveling, at times while doing some other work, immediately something may strike. So in this pocket diary, which is kept in a pocket or in a bag which the researcher is carrying with self, can immediately jot down that point which is there so that it can be incorporated within the research paper. At time one is casually going somewhere, visited a library and all, or is reading some content and comes across over there some news article, some other content which would be relevant in the context of this research paper. Researcher can immediately note down the source and the citation reference of it to be quoted. Before writing a research paper, what is very important now: introduction, conclusion, abstract, keywords, all these one can write it. But what is most the heart and soul in case of a research paper is the data. First, gather the data. Yes, on the line which the researcher intends to. What you need in order to gather the data is, first of all, you require the instrument in order to gather the data. So design the instrument. While designing the instrument, what should be included in the research instrument is that based on the objectives of the research and hypothesis of the research, we gather the data. If it is a study which is undertaken in order to look at media habits, television watching habits among the youngsters, then the relevant questions should be there relating with the scope of the research, not asking something which is not of required only. Irrelevant question which is outside the scope should be entirely outside. Which floor of the building do you reside? Does your building have a lift or it doesn't have a lift? How is it relevant with the television watching habits? It has no relevance over there. So it has to be specifically related with research. Many a time the research instruments are loaded with extra question. And when the questionnaire is given, questionnaire or an interview schedule, depending on the instrument about which we will speak shortly, is given to the respondent. Respondent looks at it. 118 question. Respondent says, kindly excuse me, I will answer later on. Let me frankly tell, they don't want to answer it. Not that they don't want to help you in the research. They are keen. But looking at the count of questions, 118 questions, who is going to sit and waste their time in answering so many questions? Everyone is busy doing some of the other work of theirs, and they don't have time to answer such a long questionnaire. So it is the duty of the researcher to ask only pinpointed specific questions for which the data need to be gathered, and that has to be directly linked with the objective hypothesis of the research work. That's it. So once the research instrument is designed based on objective and hypothesis, then the data is gathered from the respondents. Once this data is gathered, then the work is entirely desk work. Gathering the data is the field work. Then it is the desk work, wherein a researcher sits, analyzes the data, and based on that, the introduction, conclusion, and all is being written, abstract, and all. So data is most important. Without data, it doesn't make a research paper. Just like without salt, if one is giving curry to someone to eat, it makes no sense over there. A good research paper requires time to be invested. A general excuse which comes from the side of the researcher is, I don't have time. Remove time, manage time, nobody has time. So depending on the time investment, maybe daily 1 hour, which is possible, daily 1 hour. So one looks at in a month, 30 hours is being devoted in writing a research paper. So depending on the data gathering and all, 3 to 4 months is a reasonable time. So one can fix a target in 1 year, 4 research papers would be prepared. Or maybe 3 research papers may be prepared by you of a quality. So time is most important, time management need to be done. It's not the quantity I'm talking about. 3 research paper, 4 research paper in a year. At times 1 research paper which is pulled out from a thesis or a dissertation. The thesis itself has taken 3 years for the researcher to work. So it will depend on the task. One cannot say in 4 months a thesis is prepared and out of that research paper is pulled out over there. So it will depend on the task, but a research paper need not be always pulled out from a thesis. A research paper is a miniature work at a micro level, and hence around 3 to 4 research paper, depending on the field of study, one can take up. Say agricultural science, geology. Now one research paper may take 3 to 4 years also to be prepared, because they need to observe the seasonal patterns over there and all. So it will depend on the subject area, the scope of the study and all, but it has to be nowhere compromising with the quality just to roll out the quantity. Time management hence is very important. The topic has to be of contemporary nature, which is there, and merely percentage analysis will not suffice. 80% of the respondents said this, 20% of the respondents said this, 75% of the respondent opted for it. Now this percentage analysis is a school level. A school child, 7th standard child is doing such percentage analysis is fine, but someone who is at a post-graduation level or beyond that, then merely percentage analysis would not suffice. There need to be descriptive statistics, inferential statistics, appropriate tools which need to be utilized. Maybe one research paper a researcher designs using chi-square, another research paper ANOVA, another research paper correlation, another research paper regression, another research paper Wilkinson signed rank test, and so on. So at the end of 12 research paper, a researcher knows when a chi-square can be utilized, what is univariate, what is bivariate, what is multivariate, which tool is the most appropriate one which can be utilized. And if somebody asks, can I use ANOVA? You should be in a position to guide. No, here ANOVA doesn't fit in, because stating a reason, and therefore what is to be utilized? A chi-square is to be utilized over here. Which means statistical analysis being done by the researcher will also help the researcher subsequently that this tool is utilized where. Someone who is a statistician, yes, knows most of the tools, but a person who is not an MSc statistics, then such a person from other field will be able to also get grip on the statistical tools over there. Merely conceptual data would not suffice. A conceptual data need to be supported by an empirical data and so on. What is the objective of writing a research paper? Somebody may say, I require promotion. Research paper writing is an integral part of it, and therefore I want research paper. Someone may say, some unique knowledge, insights I'm having, which I want the entire world to know, and that will be in the form of the research paper which I will design and which will be published. Someone would say that as a part of the PhD, it is mandatory component to have publication therefore. Each person has their own targets, objectives of writing a research paper. We are not going to say and turn your mind that for this purpose you do it. The list can go on. Your own purpose is there over there. Some may have a specific target that I need in my entire career at least 20 research paper, 40 research paper, 80 research paper, and so on. Each one's ambitions are respected, and your goals definitely can be achieved. While writing a research paper, most important is select a micro area. For the research paper is a miniature version of the entire research work. It's not even of the entire thesis, not even 5% of it. A small miniature work, but it will have the entire flow of it. So carefully select the topic of interest. One may have a couple of topics alternate in order to undertake research. So one can prioritize it based on availability of data, based on the urgency to publish the information, because you may have 2-3 data in your mind, and which is the most important one you need to see. Because somebody, if already publishes the data in that field, then your work becomes second. If you want to be the pioneer, then that is the priority over there. Make a template, gather the data, and keep on filling, editing it. And this editing process goes on right from the title till your reference list until the submission is being done. Yes, there's a broad title decided beforehand. Okay, one cannot just like that go ahead with it. And editing continues until with the objective of making it more quality, refining it, and cutting down the words, duplications, and so on, so that it becomes acceptable in the research circle. Now, there are a couple of people, authors, who submit the research paper without writing the references, and they say everything they have written. But the journal will have a requirement, research publications houses, where a list of reference need to be provided. So providing a list of reference, at least a few of them, 3 to 4 of them, to meet their requirement is fine for that purpose. A cycle of the research goes in this way: identifying the topic, fine-tuning is a refining will go on and on. The wording, paraphrasing, and so on. Conducting the actual research and publishing the findings in the form of the research paper, which is rolled out. The cycle is important. Many a time people identify the topic, they wish to publish the finding also. First and last stage is there, but second stage there is no research. And at times it is so strange during the seminar conferences, and even at times in case of a journal, as a journal editor, when people are sitting there, experienced people, not just they are an amateur, just a fresh graduate, people are submitting the research proposal as a research paper. One who has completed PhD, one who is a PhD guide knows what is a research proposal. That person can't be fooled. A research proposal, as it is submitted as a research paper, wherein the conclusions are futuristic. The researcher intends to, the researcher thereby would conclude that without any research over there. Doesn't make any sense. A research proposal can't be taken as a research paper. Let's be very frank over there. Because a research proposal is a plan in order to undertake a research. That plan cannot be a research paper as it is. When the researcher need to work on it. And for that the researcher need to understand it. Moving ahead, the research when we are looking at can be seen that there are various types of research. Some of them in front of you. We have in this circle with white background and black background, wherein it indicates quantitative research, second indicates qualitative research. If I remove any one of them, the circle is incomplete. It is not a complete cycle. If I remove the black color portion entirely, black background becomes only quantitative research. That's just like in a 1 rupee coin, 50 paisa. If I remove quantitative, then only qualitative remains. That is just one half. Together, both of them form the entire circle. I hope the message is conveyed to you. In a modern day, what the researchers are doing at an advanced level, they are taking the quantitative plus qualitative, and a mixed method research is being adopted. This, for a beginner, is at times not possible. So a beginner has to begin with, just like a toddler begins putting few steps. A beginner begins with quantitative data analysis, then goes ahead within quantitative also. The sub type is secondary data being picked up. Then the next research paper has to be one step up. So quantitative primary data analysis. Then the next paper has to be still one level up. That's a qualitative data analysis being integrated with this quantitative data analysis and so on, which is a mixed research. So how to begin will be your question. I'm already indicating how to begin for the fresher research paper writing, but one has to begin with it. Further, when we are looking into this, now there are two aspects when we are looking into. One is the inductive method, and second is the deductive method of research over there. One makes an observation, and through the observation, one develops a theory, that is inductive method. A scientist observed apple falling from a tree, applied the scientific understanding to it, and indicated the force of gravity is existing. So through the observation, a theory, that's a force of gravity, gravitational theory being developed over there. The second type, so can this type inductive research be there? Answer is yes, both of them can be there. But it is one who observes it. Today somebody writes on the law of gravity and then says a research paper on gravity, Newton did this, then some other quoting some other scientist, quoting third scientist, they have all done it. It is not your observation. We are talking about research is an original work which is there, not somebody else's observation being put down. So original observation being developed in the form of a theory is one part. The theory which is existing, either developed by the same researcher or developed by someone else. A research is not always a start to end, one person's lifetime task. A research is like a game of relay in sports, wherein a runner runs from A point to B point, carrying a baton in the hand, and passes on the baton to the next person who is waiting over there. So you start your research paper by borrowing the ideas. From where will you get idea? The previous research works are there which are published work. At the conclusion of the research work in a thesis, in a dissertation, in a project report is mentioned before the conclusion, in the concluding pages, I mean the last pages. Scope for further research. The title is there. Scope for further research indicates that these are some area which the researcher has enlisted, 4 to 5 area, where the research can be undertaken by anyone in the world, maybe that researcher or someone else. You borrow that, do a research on those area, one of them in a research paper, and then, so the theory is already there. That theory, in order to test whether it is partially true, it is false, or completely true, one has to have hypothesis and make the observation data analysis and indicate whether the theory stands true or not. Money is not the only motivational factor in order to motivate employee at workplace. So concept which is there, money is not the motivating factor. So we have a hypothesis wherein we indicate money is not a motivating factor. Money is a motivating factor. And then design the research instrument, gather the data, make the observation, and arrive at a conclusion whether this hypothesis which is there stands true or not. In that case, that is a deductive method from theory to observation and reconfirming the theory. Further, in case of research, there are n number of other types. Pure research, the force of gravity study being undertaken, or a Maslow's theory study being undertaken, pure research in that field, which is there. Okay, similar to that. One develops new ideas out of this. Budding scientists will have the ideas. Applied research is in order to solve the problem. There's a problem. CO2 emissions are there. Now that problem, CO2 emissions are there, which will result into global warming, health problems would be caused. So an applied research is what is the alternative in order to resolve that problem. A descriptive research aims at describing a phenomenon, whereas a correlational research tries to link up two. So two elements. Advertising expenditure would result in increase in the sales. So advertising, one variable, which can be increase, decrease advertising expenditure, and sales is another variable which keeps on increasing, decreasing. So we correlate these concepts which are there. Explanatory research aims at explaining a phenomena, why it is so, giving a reasoning for it. Whereas an exploratory research tries to explore unknown area. It's a lifestyle of the tribal communities, which is a close-knit society within itself, and others don't know about it. So a researcher in social science who is undertaking such research would explore what are the lifestyle of these people, the socio-economic conditions of the migrant Adivasis and so on who are there. So exploratory. Quantitative research and qualitative, just now we emphasized upon a few minutes ago, wherein the quantitative we begin with and qualitative is a higher order research. A research ultimately has to provide a solution to a problem, and at the end of that it has to clear out the doubts which are there. Is a goal. Selecting a suitable topic is most important. From where can one get the topic? I already gave you the hint. Scope for further research. Apart from that scope for further research, one's own curiosity, one's own area of interest can be taken as a topic in order to undertake a research work or an activity over there. But the topic has to be in such a way that which can be for a research work and which can be completed within the time assigned, not too broad. That if we try to say television watching habits of the youngsters, we are not going to say each and every youngster in India or in the world would be taken into consideration for our study, which is practically not possible. It is beyond the time, beyond the resources of an individual. Even within the city of Navi Mumbai, it's not possible. Even within the city, within one, say, railway station, say Thane, it is not possible. Every youngster is becoming the respondent. So one scales down the topic so that it is manageable. But again, for this does not mean only 10 youngsters are studied, and the response of 10 youngsters is generalized for the entire population. It has to be reasonable size. Now, narrowing and stretching will depend on the topic and the area which is there. So one cannot merely generalize that this many has to be done. Is 10 too small or too big? Now that will depend on it. Okay, we cannot generalize. If it is television watching habits amongst a teenager, 10 respondents is a small number. So that cannot become an ideal. But if we are speaking about 10 prime ministers, that is 10 uh, prime ministers of 10 different nations in the world are being interviewed on economic policy, political policies, ideologies of this, then 10 would become a reasonable number over there because they are prime ministers of 10 different nations. So I cannot generalize and then say 10 is a small. 10 can be relatively a bigger number also. It will depend over there. So one has to look into a topic and then select a topic which is manageable, which will allow the analysis and so on over there. In case of a research paper, as we looked into, title of the research paper, authors, in case of multiple author, abstract. The abstract will be 3 sentences. But these 3 sentences will indicate why the research was undertaken, purpose, how the research was undertaken, research methodology, and what is the results that were obtained, statistical analysis, everything. Then it will proceed to an introduction, which will give introduction straight to the topic. Instead of from the entire globe coming to Mumbai or Thane or Gansoli, we come down to specifically what is the area of study, direct to the point instead of adding unwanted sentences over there, paragraphs over there. At time introduction is 3 pages, not required. The main research is important. The introduction has to be 4 to 5 lines. I'm not even speaking about sentence, 4 to 5 lines. Then the methods utilized for the purpose of the research, the data tool, which was there, how the data was being gathered, then what were the results of the data analysis, interpretation of the data analysis which is there, conclusion, comments. At times, yes, there are acknowledgements also in case the research is funded by ICSSR, by UGC, other bodies. Then acknowledging just in 1 sentence, that's it. The researcher hereby acknowledges ICSSR for the funding and support received for this research. That's it. Okay, in 1 sentence. In the last, references. The acknowledgement we generally don't find in a non-funded project because the researcher is working. In case of a research, the researcher, many a time in a research paper it is observed. So on this slide, you can do a close observation. Left and right have indicated. The researcher writes, I have used, or in case of more than one researcher, we have used, I have adopted, we have adopted, I concluded, we concluded. These words, whose mic is on, I would request the organizers to mute them. Organizer, please mute them. Someone is taking a lecture and this session is on. So on the left hand side, we are having, I have used, I have adopted, I conclude. This is wrong. What should be instead the word is the researcher has used, the researcher has adopted, the researcher concludes that. This wording should be there. What is there on the right hand side is right. So one has to replace. Maybe someone will say, oh, last time I used it. Last time you didn't know what was the right thing. Now this session is organized for that only, how to write a right research paper, the art of research paper writing. So improvise on it. Someone may point out, oh, I refer to that journal. In that journal, they have used no. I used and I have used and all. You are learning for yourself. Somebody makes a mistake, doesn't mean that mistake has to be copied by you. Once you know what is right, you go ahead with right. The structure of the research paper includes these. Title, author's name, abstract and keyword, intro, review of literature, the rationale of the study, objectives, hypothesis, the methodology, theoretical based data analysis, conclusion, suggestion, any supplementary material, that is the research instrument or something is there specifically, say government, some notification is there and all, if required. Okay. The end notes, are an alternative to footnotes. Now, journals have their own rules. Many a time, the journals state that footnote should be there. Footnote means at the end of the page, the end of each and every page. So, page header, we say page footer. Over there, the reference are being given. Automatic reference citation comes over there. The next number will come in. And the references would go in social science, we do use American Psychological Association format universally. But if the journal will indicate some other referencing format, then one need to follow that referencing format. That's it. The first page, rather, I would say the title at the beginning, the header in the first page would be the title, wherein the author's name will be there, institution, affiliation, designation, email ID, mobile number, and likewise information of the co-authors. Now, there are some people who write the name, one name on the left-hand side, one name on the right-hand side, and they submit and require the journal editor to select who should be the first and who should be the second. That is, who should be the principal author and who should be the co-author. Don't do that. You have collaborated with someone for writing a research paper, whose name should be first, whose name should be second. Resolve that. Later on, it should not be a conflict. If the journal editor will put left-hand side name, we read English from left to right. So the left-hand side name as the first principal author and the right-hand side name as the co-author. Then the co-author jumps up, drawing a complaint against the editors, telling that I was the corresponding author, my name is put as a co-author, I want it to be the principal author. Once it is published, nothing can be done. You give it clearly to the editor will print it. There's nothing called as left and right. It is first principal author, then co-author, one co-author, two co-author, three, in that way has to be there. No need to write co-author, one co-author, two principal author. It is chronological order, first, second, third has to be there. Left, right, or left cannot be understood. So no ambiguity from the side of the author. The title is the next component which is the most important. The title conveys everything about the research paper. It is the title which aids the reader whether to read the research paper or to turn the pages and not to read the research paper. So it is the title which will flash with the help of the keywords, the terms which can be then flashed for the review of literature. So the title plays a very important role. Many a time people ignore that element which is there. The title will indicate that it is for whom. If I use the word robotics, robotics can be utilized in n number of ways which can be there. For a person who is not from computer science or who is not inclined towards the robotics and all, the word robotics merely utilized in title will not appeal. But if we properly phrase the title and we say, using the keywords in the title along with robotics, displacement of labor force, then it will draw the attention of labor economist. It will draw the attention of the policymaker, wherein they would look into, yes, employment generation is important. And here the person is not speaking about robotic science, but the person is linking of use of the robotics and industrial application, and on the other hand, reduction of the employment opportunity. Why only in industrial application? Even in educational institutions world over, and this message is spread that there are educational institutions in India, in Karnataka, Bangalore, and also on, which are using robots to teach the students who are there. A robot is a humanoid computer. So you put anything to the computer, computer gives the instant response. No need to wait. Whether the response is right or wrong is the next aspect. Who is the contributor of that response? Be it anything in the world. But here, one person standing in front of the student in a classroom teaching a subject will not be able to answer some remotely related subject over there. I, as a faculty of management, while I'm dealing with management, if somebody asks me civil engineering question or chemical engineering question, I'm not a competent person to answer chemical engineering question, about which for an MTech in chemical engineering is required. The person may not have that competency, but whereas a computer is a computer, you put any question. Neurology also it will answer, sociology also it would answer. So most important, the title should be in such a way that it will aid, facilitate the search in future for the review of literature. Your research paper is going to be referred by other. So title, writing and editing is most important. Title should describe the content of the paper, distinguish it from other research paper. So conference is there, the theme of the conference is saying global climate change. So everybody writes 200 research paper on global climate change. How do you distinguish your research paper from other research paper? That it has a different content in global climate change. The title should be in such a way that it is like a branding a product. Giving a title to a research paper is branding a product. We have more than 20 different brands of the detergent powder, toothpaste in the market. But how one distinguishes their brand with the other brand? Likewise, your research paper, how is it distinct from other? Point number one, it has to be distinct. And point number two, it has to be flashed in the title. And title should avoid, rather I would urge not to put these words which you are seeing in fifth point. A study of, obviously everything is a study. A study of should never come. If it is not a study, then what it is? Ask yourself, everything is a study. A study on consumer behavior, a study on artificial intelligence, a study on robotics, a study on employment generation, a study on economic policy. What is it? A study of what has no meaning because everything is a study. So these words has to be deleted from the title. Titles like these, which you can see on the screen, organizational commitment to economic crisis is title. Say randomly employee satisfaction, marketing problem, training and development. These are the key words and this cannot be a title. Again, title like child labor, due diligence, SEBI, these cannot be a title. What are we looking at? What are you going to study in that aspect? From which angle we are looking into is to be highlighted over there. Sample titles are there in front of you. Okay. So some of the sample titles are there in front of you wherein you look into randomly. Say first one, combating child labor in India with special reference to contribution of United Nations System of Organization. Second one, magnitude of child workers in hotels in Mumbai city, perceptions and perspective. It's 11th point, revisiting euthanasia and the right to die from a medico-legal perspective. So title has to be like this. So sixth one, prison reforms in Maharashtra with special reference to Thane Central Jail. This is how a title need to be there. See, subject area we are not talking about. Subject area can be accounting, subject area can be consumer behavior, subject area can be training and development, subject area can be human resource management, subject area can be supply chain logistics and all. But how a title has to be there is the learning. These titles has to be there. One more title in front of you. Organizational commitment of employee in relation to job satisfaction, job involvement and motivation. Say fourth one, efficacy of training program in government enterprises, a case study of diesel locomotive works, Varanasi. Some more title, strategy and policy decision for growth in return on investment, case study of select manufacturers in two-wheeler industry in India. Some more title, supply chain management practices in Indian paint industry. Looking at the title, we come to know what is being studied. Supply chain management in real life, what is the practices? Where selected Indian industry, which type of industry, paint industry. So everything has to be there in a title. Say somebody wants to use the supply chain management practices in cement industry. This can go as a review of literature where paint industry studied here, so cement industry, how it would be variant. Product is different over there and all. So I go ahead with the title so you had an idea in case of a title. The impact of online advertising on consumer behavior. On each area, title is there. Accounting and finance. Applying a set of ratios to evaluate financial performance. Some more title in front of you. Investor response to disclosure practices in such and such company. A title, our objective is to look into title has to be very much specific. Let's convey the message clearly. What are you looking at it? Is it an empirical study, comparative study? What it is? That's very important in case of a title. This is the most ignored concept, where a generic term is only put in case of a title will not serve the purpose over there. I'm having here more than 100 titles in front of you, how it can be done. Moving to the next below the title, we'll go the abstract. Abstract, as I indicated, it is drafted in the last. Why this research is undertaken, how the research is undertaken, what is the outcome. These 3 sentences has to be there in the abstract. Why is the need rational? How is the methodology? And the results section in 1 sentence has to be there in the abstract. Entire research paper you complete, then you write the abstract. Many a time conference papers are called for. And what is the statement in the conference brochure is that kindly send your abstract by 5th of April and you can send a complete research paper after 10 days by 15th of April. It makes no sense over there because an abstract is drafted scientifically after the entire research paper is completed over there. So nobody first drafts only the abstract and then writes the entire research paper. Now that call by the conference organizers is trying to indicate that, look here, you submit it, make the necessary payment so that we are assured that you will participate, and then you write the entire research paper. So in such a case, what is to be done? Initially, even though abstract is sent, but later on, after the data analysis is done, the final sentence in the abstract need to be edited, and the abstract not separately, only abstract being sent, but that abstract is to be inbuilt within the research paper. Around 3 to 4 sentences are sufficient in case of an abstract, and hence 100 to 250 words would be sufficient, and that is what just 1 paragraph only abstract, nothing more than that over there. This is an example of an abstract. Now since it is in PowerPoint, the lines gets more over there, but I've already indicated why the research is undertaken rational, how the research is undertaken methodology, and the result section has to be there in case of an abstract. And the abstract is immediately followed by keywords. The keywords are the technical terms used by the researcher in the research paper. Like in this example, you are having the keyword of writing, reading, interaction, writers, readers, transforming. 4 to 5 keywords are sufficient. What is the meaning of that word? General meaning is different. But in the context of this research paper, what is the interpretation the researcher is giving? Why it is called as keyword? Because it is like a key which opens the door. A huge door is there. A small key is there. That key is utilized in order to open the door. Exactly in the same way, these keywords are there which opens the door of your research paper. What is this keyword which is being utilized in your research paper? This is not a general term. At times, the same term has multiple interpretation in multiple contexts. So in your research paper, what is this keyword is being indicated? So keywords, now some people say, is it a must? All these what I'm indicating are the components of an ideal research paper. The answer from my side is whatever is indicated, including the keyword, is a must in a research paper. So someone may say, you might have come across some research paper where there were no keywords. Fine, that person didn't know about it. That's it, plain. Now you know about it, you write the keywords. Next. Already reading, writing, reader, writer, we understood the keyword. Other keyword in case of some other scientific research paper, which will be research paper in a field of zoology and all, like dolphins, ocean mammal, whales, etc. Keyword need not be written one below that. The keyword is to be written in this way. Like I go back to preceding, wherein I indicate comma, 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 keywords. Your semicolon is there, I do know, but comma, 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 keywords over there indicated. Okay, 4 to 5. Then there are section heading. All these are fine tuning in the last. So we will have 4 to 5 section in the research paper. Just like in a textbook, there are 4 to 5 chapters. In a thesis, there are 4 to 5 chapters. So likewise, there are 4 to 5 section, and each section will have sub numbering. Say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are my 5 numbering. Then within one, I split up into parts 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, and so on. Within that also, the third level will go, if required, 1.1.1, 1.1.2, 1.1.3, and so on. But please don't go to fourth level. Okay, 3 level are sufficient over there. Likewise, in thesis also numbering is done. If the journal says no need to number, then fine, no need to number. But these parts indicate, okay, what are the broad heading and the subheading under that. Your introduction will be followed by your keyword, which will indicate what is the motive or intention of the author of the research paper behind writing this research paper. Why this research paper? Okay, at this point of time, why this specific area? So this lays the introduction and it sets a tone for the research paper. Just like good beginning is good ending. Introduction has to have catchy words, has to have polished words over there, which conveys the intention, purpose, motive of the research and why should a reader read it. If the initial wordings in the introduction is not going to convince the reader to read the further content in the research paper, others are not going to look at the further contents in the research paper. Hence, most important is to go through the introduction component very carefully. Operational definition. Now, word in general has a meaning. Now, that meaning is there in any dictionary for that matter. But how is that particular word interpreted by the researcher in this research paper differently? And if at all it is interpreted differently, then what is that interpretation is termed as an operational or working definition, what we try to indicate. If that element is clear, then there is no tension further. Again and again repeating the whole concept in the research paper. So at time when there are operational definition, making it clear after introduction would serve the purpose. Next aspect is review of literature. All this is the chronological sequence in the structure of the research paper. The review of literature is most important because it indicates that the previous research work which is done in the field or related field, just now I indicated paint industry supply chain is done. Someone wants to study the cement industry, someone wants to study the tire industry, can review this. Such studies have been undertaken and so on. and then indicate that in the area of the research where the researcher intends to undertake research, no such study has been undertaken. Hence, this gives a justification for the present research work, and the present research work has identified the gap in the existing research work, and this gap is being filled by the researcher over there. So the objective of review of literature, one is to keep into mind that what is there, gap identification, and this research paper will fill up that gap and has to fill up that gap. Is review of literature. Previous research work is research article in newspaper, project, dissertation, thesis, other research journal publications which are there, seminar, conference proceedings which are there, online sources, print versions of the research paper, national, international, from other countries also. All these are the sources for review of literature over there. And these sources are available in research center, on online sources meant for the researchers over there, college, university, libraries, and so on. Books are there, wherein the concepts are elaborated, reference books and all over there. All these are the sources from where the inputs can be obtained in order to undertake the review of literature. Now, moving ahead after that input, what are the contents in a review of literature? In a review of literature, the contents are these 7 points what are there in front of you. Now, 300 pages, thesis. Several of the theses are being referred. Someone will say how to read it word to word. Yes, when you are a beginner, you don't know where is what, and therefore you read it entirely. But then subsequently, you know what is to be referred. This work is to be referred as if one refers to a dictionary, a print dictionary, I mean, not an online dictionary. So in case
Hello. Sorry to interrupt, sir. Sir, it seems that your slides are stuck. Some of the participants are writing. Maybe you can check here. Thank you.
Now visible?
Yeah. Now it is visible. Review of literature.
Okay, fine. Review of literature. Okay. I think that full screen was done. Therefore, maybe, yeah, fine. All these they will receive it after the end of the session. In the next 20 minutes, I will email to the organizer, and participant will receive this. It is meant for you. Okay, going back, in case of a review, just like a print version of a dictionary one refers to, likewise the published research work is to be referred to during the stage of review of literature, and gathering of the information need to be done under these 7 heads. The name of the other researcher who has undertaken the research. You are referring to my work, which I have done a research. Then at that time, you are the author of your research paper, but my published work becomes a source for you for review of literature. So my name, the year of study which I have undertaken, the title of study under which my work is published, what were my objectives or hypotheses of this study. Not every objective and hypothesis of mine need to be taken. Only that which is linked with your study. Say I have 4 objective and 3 hypotheses. My second objective and first hypothesis is related with your research work which you intend to undertake. You pick up only that objective and that hypothesis and go ahead. You need not worry about my other objective hypothesis. That was my study from a different point of view. What was my sample size, statistical tool, and the results of the study? Gather this information. So is it possible? Everything is possible. Whatever I'm speaking, I will show it to you. So what you do is create in Excel sheet. This is a rough work. Column heading, dependent variable, independent variables which are there. Then investigator. Okay, name, title of publication, which journal, which page number, what was the statistical tool, level of significance, what is the finding, and so on. Like this, next review of literature, next review of literature. You can witness here review of literature. First study, a study investigating ethics education with student. What were the finding? You have the findings over there. Okay, this is your rough work. This third column appears in the form of a phrase, which you will be writing in the form of sentence. So you gather the information, who were the researcher, which year it was there, and so on. And once this is there, first source of review of literature, second source, third source, and so on, then this data is there ready-made with you, then you put down a review of literature. Now, how many sentences this review of literature would go? The entire research work, which 100 to 300 pages, which I referred to, can be put down only in two sentences, at times even one sentence. Example is there in front of you. So is review of literature in one sentence possible? Yes. Is it possible in two sentences? Yes. Some people write pages after pages after pages. It never ends, one review of literature. I'm showing you the sample, how it is there. Gupta, 2004. So my footnote or endnote. Footnote is at the end of the page, endnote is at the end of the research paper. Either of them will be utilized depending on the journal. Standard pattern. So Gupta, that's a surname of the author. 2004 is the year of study. Studied the weak form of efficiency of NASDAQ composite index by using variance ratio test. So which statistical tool is there? From 1971 to 2001. So this is the secondary data analysis, stock exchange related information. Time period of the data is taken into account. Using daily returns. So the statistical tool. He found evidence that the daily return on NASDAQ were not weak form efficient, full stop, the result outcome. This is how review of literature is written in one or two sentences. So one interesting question comes. In a research paper, review of literature is required or what? We have not seen any such thing. So go please see the research paper which has review of literature. You have not seen because those people have not written it. They never knew. How many review of literature? 2 or 3 is sufficient. Now there may be 200, but the most important one, which are there according to the substance of it, the content. Forms review of literature. We have the second review of literature here. Again, 2 full stops, 2 sentences. Random walk hypothesis was there. 3 major Gulf exchanges were there. Gulf Stock Exchange, the Saudi, Kuwait, Bahrain. Variance ratio test and run test, 2 statistical tool was being utilized. This study rejected the possibility of randomness of security price in the market. Review of literature in front of you. Only on review of literature, I take 3 hour session. Here in 2 hours, I am fitting in everything. Only on review of literature. How it is there. You have the third example of review of literature. So this example already informed to you how a review of literature in a research paper can be written with 2 or 3 sentences only. So gather the information in your rough working paper, that is in the form of the Excel sheet, and then substitute it in the form of the sentence. It's as easy as I am showing it to you. But one has to know what to collect from it. One doesn't know what to collect, then one is lost in 300 pages. And for a beginner, yes, beginner, you are a fresher only. Everyone started afresh. But over a period of time, one gains mastery over there when you are doing review of literature. So like this, one review of literature, one can complete in less than half an hour. Instead of sitting the entire week, reading every day 50 pages, and in 1 week 300 pages is done of a thesis. And then you come out with 3 sentences only. Only 3 sentences, as you can see, 2 or 3 sentences. Then after review of literature, we'll go the rationale of the study. So what is the further next step of review of literature is you need to find out the research gap. There is a gap in all the existing work which is undertaken. And therefore, the researcher intends to take up the research in the area which is not yet studied by others. And that is a justification. I told you at the beginning. Answer why? WHY. Why this study? So this is the justification, research gap and justification. Therefore, it is felt by the researcher that this area need to be undertaken for the purpose of study. There has to be. So these are illustration put from the actual research work, not hypothetical, including the title. On all these titles, there are theses available in several universities in India. Need for the research is that research gap and justification. Then we go to the objective. Before doing any work, they should be objective. Objective set the goal. Have in a research paper 2 to 3 objectives. No need to have more than that. Writing 7-8 objectives unnecessary. For a research paper we are talking about, try to focus pinpointedly. 3 to 4 objectives is sufficient. Objective indicate the purpose goal. Use proper terms and words. And the wording utilized in objective has to be action-oriented words while writing objective. I will substantiate it with examples. Objective should be numbered. There should be no ambiguity. And throughout the research paper, there should be no grammatical mistake and no spelling mistake. All that. Consistency need to be maintained. Unnecessary not to use abbreviations and all there in the research paper. So these aspects one need to take care of it. An acronym is there which is utilized. Say AI, entire research paper. So right first time when it is utilized, put down artificial intelligence, open bracket AI. And then you use AI. So which stands for artificial intelligence. Say today's event is there, FDP. So if FDP is there, evaluating the effectiveness of FDP amongst young researcher. So at that time, FDP several times we are utilizing. First time we give the full form of it. So the objectives has to be clear, complete, specific, and it indicates the intention of the researcher. And these objectives are utilized to design the research instrument. In the research paper, we write like this. The specific objectives of the study are first, second, third, and on the back of the mind of the researcher, there has to be justification for writing the objective. Every word used, there has to be a reasoning, scientific reasoning and justification. If there is no justification, don't go ahead. Complete that. That's an incomplete portion. Action verbs means what? Will be your question. There are people who write first one to study the consumer purchasing habit. Second one to study the pricing habits. Third one to study the promotional elements. Everything to study the what? Remove the word to study and replace it by action verbs which you are witnessing on this slide. To determine, to find out, to ascertain, to measure, to explore. To determine the consumer purchasing habits. To find out what stimulates consumers in order to purchase the product. To ascertain the consumer satisfaction value. To measure the consumer satisfaction value and compare it with other comparable forms. So like that, use the action verbs. And what words we are utilizing is linked to, as we understood earlier, whether it's a descriptive research or correlational research or experimental research and so on. Each of them are linked, titled to the objectives, to the methodology. And everywhere writing to study will not do. I believe after today's session, you will delete the word to study everywhere and you will replace it with these words. You can witness over here how the research objective has to be there. As Shiv Khera has indicated, example, objective need to be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. Our research objective should be smart, like for instance, to provide a comprehensive review, to develop a model, to review the current industry practices, to outline a conceptual framework, the wording of the objective as we can witness, to measure the depth, to find a mechanism, to provide a thorough comparison. But this is how action verbs are there everywhere. If we put to study the depth of poverty and pattern, to study the mechanism that can help, to study comparison of success and failure, we would not do. To study, remove it after today's session. Every objective need to be verified in the data analysis stage. Otherwise, there is no point in writing objective which is not verified. So then next stage goes hypothesis. Hypothesis is basically a hunch, an estimate, which is there, a guesswork. And that hunch, a estimate, guesswork, researcher will have, which need to be tested against the empirical data which is being gathered. We use these terms, which not for null hypothesis. The word null means empty. So that's why H naught, zero value, and HA or H1, either of these are utilized. Universe, n number of things. The researcher's imagination, researcher observation, scientific theory, review of literature, other researchers who have studied. N number of sources can be the source for hypothesis. Hypothesis again will be numbered 1, 2, 3. And there has to be justification of putting the hypothesis. In a research paper, how many hypotheses should be there will be a question. You can have one and stop. Because it's a research paper. All there. Can a research paper be there without hypothesis? Then it is the elementary level of research paper, I would say, which doesn't have a hypothesis. Next is you will gain valuable insights regarding the word limitation and delimitation of the study. Both are different. Limitation and delimitation. Limitation of the study are the weaknesses in the study. Now, every study will have limitation. What is the limitation? I indicated to you. We can't study the entire population of India, or the entire population of Maharashtra, entire population of Navi Mumbai or Thane city. It is beyond one researcher's physical capacity, financial resources, time available, and the skills. This limitation is bound to be there. Well, so one has to understand that every research work has a limitation. Government department undertakes census study, one decadal census, door-to-door enumerators coming, visiting, gathering the information, because government has the manpower, it is having the funding. And that too government undertakes once in 10 years, not every year, because they know, because of the funds, the manpower is less with them. So how can a researcher research have no limitation? What is the limitation of a research? Sir, no, sir, there is no limitation of the research. Everything is perfect. Limitation doesn't mean there's some fault in the research. So the study is based on limited data. That limited data may be 800, limited data may be 1200, limited data may be 45. Hence, the generalization are based on that limited data. There can be other research tools which can be utilized. Time, resource, skill, funds available are a constraint. Delimitation, on the other hand, means the areas which the researcher can control. It is the scope of study. In a hockey ground, football ground, basketball ground, if the ball goes out in that boundary, then it is out. It has to be brought in as per the rule of the game. So how a demarcation is done, a boundary is drawn. Say kabaddi is there, there's a boundary which is drawn. Exactly in the same way, delimitation is the boundary of the research work. In other words, this is scope of the research work. Is in other words, delimitation of the study. And here the researcher has a choice. I want to study consumers' television watching habits, and I want to study this in Thane and Navi Mumbai and compare it. Or I want to study this in Thane and Banaras and then compare it. So which areas have to be selected is the choice of the researcher, which researcher can have a control over there. So delimitation, in other words, the scope of the study. Like for instance, this study is delimited to the academic year, a specific academic year or a calendar year. It is delimited to one educational institution. It is delimited to one educational programs and so on. To a sample size, to use of one research tool and so on. It's the scope of the study. So the scientific research process aims at right at the beginning, just like in science experiment at a school level, even further at a college level, those learners who had opted for science. In a science experiment, we have aim and apparatus, procedure, finding, conclusion. It's a scientific research, scientific process. The same scientific process is adopted even in a research. What is the aim is goal. What is the apparatus is a research instrument, observation sheet, or it is a questionnaire, or it is an interview schedule. What is the procedure adopted? What is the finding and conclusion over there? So we have the methodology in case of a research, which looks at, as we had seen, exploratory, analytical research, explanatory research, descriptive research. Then what is the universe or population? Universe, population are used as substitute term. If your study is restricted to teenagers, television watching habits, then we will look only at teenagers. Those who are not teenagers, they would be out, that age group. If we say teen, then 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So 13 to 19 are my age group if I define in my research. Then up to 12 will be out, including 12, and 20 onwards will be out. So my universe or population is 13 to 19 age group of the people. Then within that sample size would be picked up. What is the sample size? What is the duration of the study? Like we saw the stock market just now, 71 to 91. In the same way, what is the duration of the study? What is the data sources? Which statistical tool is utilized over there? Which software is utilized? And in a modern day, the software utilizes SPSS, popularly in social sciences. There are other softwares which are there, no doubt. And why a particular statistical tool or a sample size or a sampling technique is utilized and so on. I will take a pause here, okay, and I will go to a specific slide where I want to indicate where publication can be made. Okay, wait for a moment. Yeah, now where all this understanding which you obtained, where it need to be published? We need to publish the research work in a peer-reviewed journal, wherein the reviewers will review the research work, whether it is quality and whether it is of publishable standard, which alternatively is termed as referred journal. UGC University Grants Commission has listed journals in various branches of study. Research work need to be published in it. These are alternatives in front of you. So those journals which are not peer reviewed, which are not in the UGC list and all, or serial number 4, 5, 6, what I've indicated, that will not have significance if one publishes. So one looks into where the publication is coming up. One need to be focused, selective, plan. There are books which are published. Books have ISBN number, International Serial Book Number. Journals have ISSN number. So someone will say peer-reviewed journal is there and it has ISSN number. Fine. ISSN stands for International Standard Serial Number, ISSN number. And books have ISBN number, which are there. So over there, one publishes chapters in a book, but then which books which have ISBN number, obviously. And Scopus index list of journals are there. One looks into and publishes there. If the publication is in this area, it will have the weightage over there. I will show you one before we go to the conclusion. This research paper writing is a big ocean. And every next research paper of yours has to be in better quality compared to your earlier research work. And mastery over this field can be gained only by practice. Just like we say, practice makes a person perfect. Mastery can be gained only by practice, writing more research paper. I would quickly show you one research paper sample format before we take up the session, take up your questions. I'm projecting in front of you a research paper general format. I believe it is visible. Yes, no, you need to respond. Yeah, I believe it is visible. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So whatever you have understood just now, you can witness here paper title. Okay. Font size, everything is given in front of you. Times New Roman, uppercase and all. And other technical requirement. If there is a subtitle, then otherwise paper title would be sufficient. One looks at the title.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you please kindly zoom in?
This is Zoom only. You need not read the wording over there. Okay. This will come to you by email. At that time, you can go through that. Okay. You have the title at the beginning. Then we have the author information, as I indicated to you, name of the author, designation, corresponding information, email, mobile number, etc., and so on. Institution affiliation, like that of first author, second author. Followed by that, we have the abstract, as I indicated to you, 2 to 3 line. Followed by that will be keyword, 5 to 6 keywords which are there. Then A4 will be the paper size which will be utilized, Times New Roman. One would justify indicating your right hand side wording will end at the same edge over here, not zigzag. Using a justify command for it. Then you divide the paper into 4 to 5 parts over there. And then the subparts with the numbering, introduction at the beginning, as you can witness here. Here this is not meant to be read, but just an indication. So we have introduction. So we one para introduction, need for this particular study, why this study is required in your own field, the rationale, the justification for that thing. Then the research methodology which goes for the study. What is the population? Just now we witnessed universe, alternatively termed as population. And what is the sample size? How the sample size is selected. Okay. Then what is the source of the data sources and all. Then we go on further within that data sources and so on. Gathering the data, analysis of the data which is there, statistical tools which are being utilized and all. We have two type of in statistical tool analysis. One is the descriptive, second is the inferential. So we have descriptive statistics, inferential statistics, measures of central tendency, are utilized for descriptive statistics. Mean, median, mode. We use these for descriptive statistics where, say, population demography, male, female, urban, rural. It's a descriptive statistics which will go. But your hypothesis testing will go through inferential statistics. Then in case any model is developed, that model, what is the model developed by the researcher, that would come in over there. If any model is developed, tables are there, charts are there, graph is there. Every table will be having a title. So we can, a number, we can witness here table 4.1, descriptive statistics. Source data analysis 2023. Over there. Then your inference of that table, which is there. Hypothesis testing would go, and conclusion. After the conclusion would go references, which are there. In this way, the theoretical component and how the research paper general outline can be there. I have presented in front of you in this session of yours. Now, any person having any question, as the organizers will read out the question and I would respond to the question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Actually, we have some questions from the students and resources. So can we start the question answer session?
Yes, please start.
Yes. So first question is from Dr. Mahesh Munde. He has asked that, can you please provide a list of reputed journals for management science specific about operations management?
The list of the journals on UGC site, and further it gets updated and all. Yes, from the UGC website, it would be made available through the organizers. But this list of journal, which would be there today relevant, at time the regulatory body may discontinue some of the journal in future, may add some more journal to its own list also in future. So today's list, which will be there, is as on today it is there, and maybe after a month and so on, it is subject to updation from the regulatory authority. Yeah, in every field there is a list of journal. Yes, it would be made available.
Oh, yes, sir. So next question is, what is the good impact factor considered for the journals in management?
See, the impact factor considered, point number one, for what purpose? Okay, is one aspect which is there on the impact factor. Now, I have something on the impact factor component which is there. You can witness on this screen the concept of impact factor. But when we look into the UGC document, university document, there's something called as Thomson-Reuters impact factor would be taken into consideration for assigning the points. Otherwise, if it is not a Thomson-Reuters impact factor, it won't be taken into consideration for assigning the points in India. So it is like that. And in India, very few, hardly there are Thomson-Reuters impact factor which are available. In the generic word impact factor is mentioned, but that is not the Thomson-Reuters one, because someone is looking from the API, Academic Performance Indicator, for Career Advancement Scheme CAS. And for them, I'm indicating in that CAS form, very clearly it is mentioned impact factor, but one closely looks at it, there's a word Thomson-Reuters being mentioned. So only Thomson-Reuters impact factor would be taken into consideration. Otherwise, the points will be as general like it is without impact factor. What is the aspect of impact factor calculation is there in front of you. The previous year's articles which is being referred in the current year. So impact factor is calculated in that way, which is there. So the impact factor of a journal would be calculated in this way. It's a ratio, basically A upon B is an impact factor. A indicates the number of time the article referred in the journal in the past 2 years were cited by the article in the journal in the subsequent year. So we take year 2015-16 for example, those articles which were there, not the references of it, those articles which were cited in the journal during 2017. Now this is calculated by the publishing authority and printed. Author need not worry about it, but generally a higher impact factor, one looks at it. Yeah.
Yes, sir. The next question is, which are the good indexing databases for management?
The same thing, which is a list is there. So the databases is there, the list is there, and also when one is doing the review of literature, one comes across the source of the journal. Point number one, the earlier question also which was being asked, in a specific field, in their own field of specialization, the list which is required. So one looks at where the previous researcher I published. Obviously, that is a source to publish over there. Likewise, the databases and yeah.
Sir, next question is, what is the difference between reference and bibliography?
Thank you. In a research paper, we write the word references, whereas in case of a project report, dissertation, thesis, we use the term bibliography, wherein the entire long list of references, and at time the list of references in a thesis or a dissertation will run into more than 10 pages only. And if we write in a research paper, those 10 pages, the reference, the components which are there, then it will overshoot the number of wording and it would be returned back by the editor. So handful of them, say 3 to 4, the key references, which are being the select references, the key references which are being utilized. Further technical input, if we have to speak about, is the style of presenting. That is the API format, American Psychological Association formatting, or some other formatting in which the referencing in a research paper need to be furnished. So since the session is on research paper writing, so the word references is utilized in the last. Yes, please.
Yes, sir. One more question. Any free resources to download research papers for students, especially?
Online journals are there. Online journals are there basically. If somebody is looking at the downloading or reading from the sources which are there for research paper, and those online sources would help in reading. At times download option is not available, one can only read it. At time download option is available, wherein any researcher for that matter can refer to it. Only the keywords also being put will serve the purpose. Online research paper in, and then the further keywords which are there, and further keywords India, abroad, which is there, a specific country is there. One can start off with, or a research center name which is being put, publishing is there, and all in that way. So ICFAI, research journal ICFAI, and one enters into research papers in human resource management, HRM, ICFAI, India, and one enters into the journal will open in. Yeah.
Yeah. Sir, as a student, can we publish a research paper continuing of qualitative data rather than quantitative data?
Anyone can publish. Here it's a different aspect. One need not look at student and not a student. In fact, everyone is a learner lifelong. So anyone can publish. One can look into qualitative or quantitative. Once a research paper is published and it is forwarded to the editorial board, then it will undergo plagiarism test, point number one. Then after it is successfully coming out of the plagiarism test, then the editor sends it to the reviewer. There are 3 different reviewers. There's a single blind review, okay, or a double blind review, there are two mechanisms of review which is there. Now, in case of a single blind review, what is done is the author's name is removed. So you have sent a word copy. I am the editor. I will say copy of. I will number the research paper 1, research paper 2. I have my index research paper belongs to. So copy of that research paper, I will remove the name and the institution affiliation. And then I will send it to two different people, experts in this field, and along with it, a review form to them, and then say review it on all these parameters which have been explained. Is the abstract proper? Is the research methodology proper? Is the results section explained properly? Is the conclusion there properly? Is it an innovative area? And so on. And scores are there, 5 different area out of 20, 20, 20, so out of 100. So the reviewer will go through the research paper, then they will assign the score, and then there are 3 remarks, 3 or 4 remarks. One, reject the research paper entirely. Second is publish the research paper as it is, means it is high quality, accepted. The third one is suggested changes are there. Incorporate those suggested changes by the author of the research paper and send it to the editor and publish it. The fourth one, incorporate the suggested changes and once again send for review. The reviewer will go through it, whether the changes means there are substantial changes to be made, then those changes are there or not. Then it will pass through the filtration stage. Then if it is worth of publishing standard, it would be published like that. So reviewer fills in the form and the appropriate applicable remark will be tick marked and sent back to the editor. The editor will send it to the author once again. If it is selected for publishing, congratulations, your research paper has been selected for publication purpose. So be it qualitative or quantitative, if it is according to the author, it is a high standard. But according to reviewer, it has to be publishable standard over there. If it is not a publishable standard, then the reviewer will say reject. There is no innovative concept over there. If somebody says chlorofluorocarbon releases will result into the depletion of the ozone layer causing skin cancer, it is already there since ages. People know about it. What is new in your research paper? So out of 100, the score will be given 4 or 5, and then will be stated it is not worth publishing. You reject it entirely. It has to be publishable standard. Now the writer has to keep that into mind, that whether it will be accepted by the reviewers or not. Then one can go ahead, be it qualitative, be it quantitative over there. Yes, please.
Yes, sir. Yes. Sir, one more, there is a question. Jaya Perry has asked, please inform which software more useful to check plagiarism.
Plagiarism, Turnitin is there for that. Plagiarism software. Plagiarism software. All this single blind, double blind, what I'm speaking in the question answer is already there. Well, there now the software somewhere I have put down. Well, there's software. Plagiarism software testing is there, and Turnitin is popularly being utilized for that purpose. Yeah, somewhere it's there. Yeah. If any other software one is having, of apart from Turnitin, the college or the research center is having, one can go ahead with it, no problem. Yes, please. Next.
Yeah, yes, sir. So this is the last question of the session. So what is the importance of the position of the author in the research paper? Shruti Namdev has asked this question.
No, again, it will depend on the purpose for which you are writing. If an author is writing a research paper, which is an integral part of the PhD, as per the university mandate, wherein the university research center mandate is there, where during the tenure of the research work, the researcher need to publish 3 research papers or 2 research papers along with the guide, then that is your objective. So at that time, your position as an author will be you as a research scholar and your research guide. Two people are there in the research paper. Who would be the first and who would be the second will be your question straight away. That who should be the principal author or the first author and whose rank should be the second author over there. And my direct response to this, don't go round and round. Don't go on asking anyone. What you do, go straight to your research guide. Sit with your research guide. Ask your research guide this doubt, that you are having this doubt, and whose name should be first. Because if you put your name first and the research guide name second, that is not considered as a part of your PhD research publication, and you will be required to publish more than. Again, it will be a burden for you. More publishing is always welcome, new learning, but then your mandatory compliance to be met. Ask your guide, do the needful. The guide says in both the publication, guide name should be first, research scholar name should be second. Do as directed for your mandatory compliance purpose, which is that. If the guide says other way around, no, your name has to be first as a research scholar, guide name has to be second. Do as directed for that. If it is a part of your PhD work, and if it is not a part of your PhD work, you are doing other than that, and whose position has to be first, whose position has to be second in case of joint researchers, that research papers published jointly, that is your mutual understanding between yourself. One who contributes majorly becomes the principal author, and one whose contribution is less in proportion becomes the co-author. That is the sequence. One is principal author. 70% of the points are for principal author. Say 10 points are there for a research paper in API. Then out of 10, 7 points goes to the principal author, and 30% of the points, that is 3, for each of the co-author. Each of the co-author, remember. So which means suppose there are 4 people writing a research paper, A, B, C, D. A is the principal author. A gets 7. B, C, D gets 3 each. I hope you got it. 3 each. Now don't add up 7 plus 3, 10 plus 3, 13 plus 3, 16. So 16 is more than 10. 10 only is maximum. Each of the co-author gets 30% of the point, irrespective of number of co-authors over there. But at time a journal or a conference may say that more than 3 co-authors not permitted was. Otherwise, there will be 300 people, the entire classroom name will be coming as a co-author over there, 100 people in a classroom. Now that will be like a joke, 100 people writing one research paper over there. Yes, the position matters. I hope I could respond to what you required. Yes, please.
Yes. Sir, the session was very much insightful, and thank you for this. Now we would like to proceed with the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for a wonderful session, and thanks that whatever doubts you had, you got it clarified. At any point of time, it's welcome. I'm honored to be a part of this interactive session. I'm greatly thankful to Director Sir Dr. Dinesh for giving me this golden opportunity. Thanks to every member of the organizing team who were keen in having this platform for all the participants. Anyone at any point of time, any questions are there, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's my privilege to extend a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, Prathamesh Deshpande, on behalf of Rajiv Gandhi College of Management Studies, Ghansoli, extend my sincere gratitude to our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Arvind Dhond sir, who took out his valuable time and accepted our invitation to deliver his thoughts and experiences on such an informative subject. A big thanks to our Director, Professor Dr. Dinesh Gabne sir, for trusting us and giving us an opportunity to conduct today's FDP. A special thanks to the R&D committee members, Professor Ashish Pant sir, Professor Niyati Joshi ma'am, and my colleague Rashmi for providing immense support in successfully conducting this event. I would also like to thank all the esteemed participants for their presence and contribution in the event. As no program can become successful with a single person, I extend my vote of thanks to our entire RGCMS family. Without their support, this wouldn't have been possible. Thank you everyone once again for making this event a great success. And at last, the feedback link is provided in the chat window. All the participants are requested to kindly fill the feedback before leaving the session in order to get your e-certificates. Thank you. The feedback link is provided in the chat window. All participants are requested to kindly fill the feedback before leaving the session in order to get your e-certificates.
सर पीपीटी मिल सकते क्या सर?
Yes, PPT will be sent.
Where can I get, sir?
It will be sent to the organizer. Organizer's email ID, and organizer should forward to you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
If I can get the organizer's email ID, I will note down and send it across right away. Can I get that email ID in that chat box? If any organizer is there.
Yes, sure, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, we are there. Yes, we will post the email ID in the chat box. Just give us a second.
I will just copy it and send it across to you in next 5 minutes, so participant can collect it from the organizers.
Hello. Sir, this is Professor Ashish. Sir, I have already shared you my email ID on mail. The research email ID. You can share the PPT there.
On
Hello?
my email ID? Yes. On the email ID where I had received the link.
I have made
link, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have sent. Yeah, where I have sent the link, I have sent the research email ID.
I will send
directly
it.
mail.
I will send it right away.
It was a very informative and insightful session. So we have received a very positive response from the audience also.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Welcome.
Have a nice day, sir. Yeah.
Same here.